Kanalu Young's remarkable story is about a courageous journey, emerging from a personal tragedy to find a new meaning and passion for life. Some of us make that journey and find our way despite a childhood of unimaginable neglect. Join us for an inspirational insights with people who found the power to overcome. This live broadcast and live stream of Insights on PBS Hawaii start now.
Aloha and welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. I'm Laura Yamada. We just watched the story of a man whose life changed dramatically for the worse when he was just 15 years old. He was bitter and angry, yet he was able to work through it and rechannel his energy into what became his lifelong passion, justice for his native Hawaiian community. He left a legacy of inspiration and hope that touched everyone who had the good fortune to know him. It was through extraordinary courage and perseverance that he overcame the barriers in his life to achieve such distinction. Well, tonight's guest panel includes 3 members of the community who also found the power to overcome. Our 4th guest is a psychologist and counselor who can speak to what it takes to overcome such personal adversity. We look forward to your participation in tonight's show. You can email, call, or tweet your questions, and you're going to find a live stream of this program at pbshawaii.org and our PBS Hawaii Facebook page. All right, now to our guests. Roy Sakuma grew up dreading to go home to a family environment severely impacted by mental illness. He spent much of his childhood angry and frustrated. He couldn't relate to his peers and never finished high school after his principal told him to leave. Brandon Ragasa graduated this past May from Campbell High School. His father died in an accident when Brandon was less than a year old, and his 15-year-old mother became addicted to drugs and lived on the streets. He was passed among family members for most of his childhood. Evelyn Axon-Hao was born in the Philippines during the World War II Japanese occupation. In 1946, she and her parents arrived in Hawaii as part of the last large group of Filipinos recruited to work on the plantations. She grew up in Kalihi, attended Farrington High School, and earned her Bachelor's of Education degree and her Master's from the University of Hawaii. After decades as a devoted teacher and principal in the Hawaii public school system, she was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. And Dr. Kainoa Kaneakua is a doctor of psychology and a marriage and family therapist. His specialties include emotional disturbance, relationship issues, and grief, but he works with a wide range of emotional and behavioral issues. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. This is a sensitive topic, but this is so important for people in the community to hear this and to hear all of your stories and to help them find a path of their own. So Roy, we're gonna talk to you first a little bit. So many people know you because of what you've done in recent years. A musical icon, I think that's fair to say. Legendary, can I say legendary ukulele teacher. What, thousands of kids at this point you've taught? Thousands?
Oh yes, yeah, I guess you could say that, yes.
Big ukulele concert, many of you probably know from that. But it was only more in recent years that you decided to talk about your childhood, and initially in somewhat of an unexpected way. So before we get into that, let's go back to your interview with Leslie Wilcox in 2008 and take a listen here for a few minutes.
1st to 6th grade, I was always cutting out of class.
What did you do instead of going to class?
I would just go down to the river and just hang out there, or I would come home and hide in the garage so that my mother wouldn't see me.
By yourself?
By myself, because I realized now that I was going through a lot of struggles, and these struggles naturally comes up later in life, but at that time you don't understand it. So the only thing you do is you're more comfortable being out of that environment of school because you don't know how to, relate to your peers. And so it really was difficult for me, but it turned out to be a blessing later on in life.
Was your dad in the home?
My dad was home, but because my mother and brother were both mentally ill, it was hard for him. I didn't expect him to be home because it was hard. There was never any logical communication. So my father would go out every night, and naturally he enjoyed drinking, so he'd be drinking 7 nights a week. I was happy for him knowing that he was enjoying his life. I was struggling, it was okay, but I was happy for him.
Paranoid schizophrenia today is a very treatable disease. Was there medication available for your mother?
You know, at that time, way back, from what I understand, my father told me that they didn't have, or what's the word I'm trying to say, is that he couldn't take my mother to get any help because at that time it was shameful. If you had this type of mental illness and people around you knew what it was, it didn't look good. So my father had to just, what's the word, is to just live with it. He did tell me years later, though, that he tried to commit her. But what happened is that no one would help him in the family because my mother's mother would not allow it. She felt that was taboo.
That means your brother was also untreated when he had his problem?
My father sent him to the Kanalu Mental Institution where he received treatment, and he would get these medications where they would release him. But the problem is that every time they released him, he had to go back in because he would get another breakdown. And so it was a struggle because I remember when he was young, when I was young, he tried to kill me one time with a knife. And so ever since then, I was only like 11 years old. Every time he came home, I couldn't sleep in bed. You know, I'd be shivering because I'd be afraid that, you know, in my sleep he was going to do something to me and harm me. So it was a struggle those years. It was very painful.
When you said you didn't know right from wrong, how did that translate?
I think because there was so much anger in me, there was so much frustration. I felt like I was the only weird kid in the neighborhood, that how come I have all these emotional problems and everybody around me looked so normal. And so there would be all this anger in me, and I would do things that were totally unacceptable, like, you know, just things not to hurt people, but things that were not appropriate. And a neighbor was yelling at me because we were making too much noise, and I cut down part of his tree, you know, because I was so upset, and yet I didn't realize that I was doing these things that was actually, you know, it was just the anger in me that had me doing these things. And it was a very difficult time for me because I didn't know how to control this. And I think more than anger, it was the hurt I was feeling, the pain.
And there was no adult you could speak with about it?
There was no adult. And that's why I developed all these misconceptions in life. And it wasn't until I became a young adult, I think I was like 19 years old, I decided that I needed to do something about this. So I went to a psychologist and talked to him, and that was a turning point of my life.
You said it's been a while since you've heard that interview. We're here talking about it today.
Yeah,
is it tough still to this day to hear yourself talk about it and to talk about it?
no, because I do talk about it openly now, and I find that through the talk, it has helped others. So I'm always available to share this, especially with youngsters.
You know, I'm trying to wrap my brain around what it would be like at a young age, as a youngster, a teenager, a young adult, to try and absorb that and hold that in.
A lot of it is shame. You feel shame, you know, you don't want people to see your mother, you don't want people to see your brother, and you just want to fit in, and like everybody else's family looked so normal. And so it was a lot of shame that kept me from even thinking of opening up. But it's hard. It's hard when it's on, like for me, it really, I think I developed some of her paranoia. And somehow through the years that went by, I was able to get through it. I can't explain how, but I think it was probably in my 20s, developing a real positive attitude towards life.
I would think for quite a while, it must have been very, very isolating for you.
Oh, yes. I mean, there are many times that I wanted to commit suicide, and I attempted, and I would do things so dangerous, knowing that the outcome could be death. But I did it because I was hurting so much, and I felt like if I did die, all this pain and insecurity and loneliness in me would disappear, because I would cry many times at night. Why am I like this? Why am I so weird? You know, why are all my friends so nice and normal, and here I am so different? Why is my family like this? You know, it was really hard.
You talked about your dad and the respect you had for him, but the ways that you saw that he had to cope with it, and you accepted that.
I accepted that, and I realized, in fact, I was just thinking of my father the other day. He never said something hurtful to me. He was always good to me, but when I did something wrong, he would sit me down and talk to me. But when I look at the relationship with my father and mother, my father would say, "Why did you do that? I told you no." And she would say, "Da, da, 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 da." But my father wouldn't yell at her. And it would make me so sad to see my father like that. So when he was out, drinking with friends and coming home later on at night, I was really happy for him. I was happy that he could, because I went with him several times to the bar, and naturally I get to eat all the food, but I get to see him talking with his friends, and he was so happy. So it made me happy to see him like that.
I would imagine in that household, because it wasn't just your mother, it was also your brother that had mental illness, schizophrenia, both of them.
And I think that's where I developed this attention deficit, because, if you can picture me trying to study as a little kid, I'm trying to do my homework, and then behind me, my mother is walking back and forth behind me, laughing and talking to herself, and across from me is my older brother, laughing and talking to himself. It was very, I don't know, maybe he can explain it for me, but it was really difficult. I had to shut my mind off and go into fantasy land, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What else did you do to try and cope with this? I know you talked about a lot of anger, that it came out in ways that were destructive. Was that a way for you to survive, or how else did you find ways to get through this? It's so incredibly.
As I got a little older, and I remember I got kicked out of the 9th grade in middle school, intermediate school, and I missed 4 months of school. But when I went back, they wouldn't accept me. They said, "You're going to go to high school. We don't want you back." And so I went to high school, but that's when the principal said, "Roy, one of us has to leave, and it's not me." So he basically said, "You're out of school." And I went to work right away, and that was really a help for me, because I worked really hard. I just worked so hard for the bosses, but I didn't realize till later on, working so hard, it took my mind off all the things that I was traumatized and burdened with. So I loved working.
It was a distraction.
It was a distraction that helped me a lot, yeah.
You talked about as you got older, you realized at some point that you had to help your mother in a way that the rest of the family, they weren't ready to deal with it in that way. And that must have been incredibly difficult for you. How did you, what had to happen?
I was teaching ukulele at that time, and one of my students was a doctor. And I shared with him my trouble with my mother and how she was suffering. And he said that being that I was now 18, that I could commit her. And I asked my father, and my father just didn't want to get involved in it at that time. So I took it upon myself. Now I'm in my young 20s. I committed her to, and the ambulance came, and they strapped her in the, like this, and took her in on that gurney or something. And as they were wheeling her out of the house, she told me, and I still remember this, she said, "I hate you. I hate you. I will never speak to you again, and you are not my son," Wow. And then they took her away. And I was really hurt, and yet I knew that was the right thing to do. And you know what? It turned out the right thing to do, because now she received medication, and at the latter part of her life, my sister and I could actually carry a conversation with her. It was really a blessing.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more in a few minutes about
Sure.
How you've helped so many other people. We want to talk to Brandon a little bit about, from such a young age, the things that you had to go through. You're, as we mentioned in the introduction, your father died when you were very, very young. Mm-hmm. And your mother, also still a teenager at the time, had difficulty with drug addiction. So that really made your home environment very fractured.
Yeah.
Tell me about what that was like back then.
Growing up, before high school, I would always, every week, go back and forth to my mom's side and my dad's side, sleeping over. I guess for me it was kind of unsettling, like having to adjust to different environments, like growing up. You miss out on each side, basically. Like, it's hard to like see continuous growth when you're not there, you know? And for me, I just felt empty, like growing up, like missing out on like having a mom and a dad. Of course I have my grandparents, but you know, you don't have that same familial like connect with you would have with a parent.
Right. Now, you know, as Roy talked about, you know, he kept this part of his life quiet for so long. You didn't share it much either, so there was a lot of this that you were bearing on your shoulders for a long time by yourself, for the most part.
Yeah. Again, like before high school, I would just keep it in, isolate myself, I guess. Yeah, I'd never talked about it to anybody. Like none of my friends knew. Like, of course, my grandparents knew, but I would never like talk to them about it because I just felt really vulnerable and just uncomfortable talking about it because it's just so different. And like growing up, having friends that have like normal, like what Mr. Sakuma said, having friends with normal lives, like it's just, yeah, it just felt like I was an oddball all the time. So I never really talked about it. I just wanted to fit in. And yeah, but then high school came along. I found more distractions like extracurricular activities, schoolwork, going into like student council, and having friends, like making connections, like having people to fill that hole, like that gap. It's just really heartwarming, you know? Yeah.
You know, I was thinking that it'd be so difficult to concentrate on all the work and all the activities you were doing, but as you mentioned, in a way, it was positive, but also a distraction.
Yeah.
It took you away from some of the other things that you were dealing with in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, especially student council, I would say. Having 3 years going on, having that one advisor, Ms. Richardazo, she would always like, she was like my school mom basically, and it was really easy to open up to her, I guess. And yeah, I found my way to church halfway through my high school career, and from there, like, I just found a home, I guess, another home at church, and it was really, I guess, easier to open up there as well because all the same people have the same, we're all from different backgrounds and we all come together, and you don't really see that side of them much, and yeah.
Have you been able to talk to your mom?
I see
Is
her
it tough?
now and then, but lately I haven't seen her much, but usually it's phone conversations. Like, I don't see her usually. Yeah, it's usually fast conversations.
Well, Doctor, I mean, we're starting to hear, you know, some of their stories more in depth, and over the years, there's so many of these stories that you've heard, that you've worked with. I mean, it's not surprising that one of the toughest steps is just being able to open up when there's so much trauma and so much disruption happening in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's amazing to me. Everybody has their own story and where they come from and their own experiences. What I think is so helpful, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but what I think is so helpful for being able to have this forum to be able to talk about your stories really does help other people. To see someone who, like how you're saying, you know, I felt like I was the only one, it was just me, no one else could feel like me, I want to be like everybody else, I want to be normal. There are many people out there that have the same feeling. And when you feel different, or when you feel like there's a secret, or when you feel that there's something in there, you pull back, and you pull back from others. So finding community, finding belief systems, finding all these things, and especially when I heard, you know, throwing yourself into work, that work was great for you, because that is one of the things. A lot of times people feel, I'm a failure, I can't do anything right, because sometimes they put that stigma on themselves that the reason I'm in this is something's fundamentally wrong with me, that's why I'm in this circumstance. And to be successful at something, that can help someone understand, I'm not this, I can be other things, and as I accomplish and do more, then I feel better about myself.
You know, one of the questions that we got, this really could be for anyone on the panel, and this comes from Jenna. Thank you, Jenna. How did both of you fight feelings of apathy or negativity about the world, maybe avoiding feeling like a victim, because it would be such an easy thing to fall into.
Yeah, I mean, well, when I'm in a situation where there's something negative happens, I would always think of something happy. And I realized that's one of the reasons I was able to survive day to day. It was just the way I did it. I would think of something happy, like, okay, no matter what happened, if I look for something good, that's what was helping me. I mean, that's the only way I can explain it. But if you're talking about today, what's happening? I mean, you know, if you can, is that what that question is about?
I think just in general,
in
trying
general,
to keep yourself out of that hole of.
Yeah, I could always find something positive that, and I didn't realize it till I started writing this book when the editor told me. I didn't finish it, but she jokingly said, you need to write a second book. And I said, come on, we haven't even finished it. But she says, look at all your stories. Every time there was a negative situation, you turned it around into a positive ending. And I didn't realize it. And so I always look for something positive in a negative situation, and I could find it.
We're going to talk to Bran a little bit more, too, of all the positive things that you've done in your life. It's been amazing. But somebody else who could write a book, I think Evelyn could write a book about everything she's experienced in her life and her family as well. It's been a challenge for not only for you, but even for your family coming here. That was quite a journey to begin with, and a hurdle from the minute that you entered into this world.
Yes, I was born in the Philippines towards the end of World War II. And of course, I don't remember anything at that time, but based on my mom's stories, she would tell me things like there were times when she would carry me with my dad for cover when the airplanes would be above, you know, shooting. And I'm thinking, I make a joke out of it. I say, well, Mom, all that trauma, I think that's why I'm so short. I didn't grow. But so at the end of World War II, my parents decided to join in with that group that would come to Hawaii. And that was the last large group of plantation workers. They were not old enough, but they're so resourceful that they were able to be part of the group. I guess resourceful meaning they lied about their ages. You know, they just needed to do what they needed to do. Just recently, some stories about occupied Philippines. You know, when it was occupied by the Japanese, my mom is just beginning to tell stories about some of the horrific things that happened. I guess she feels that she needs to share them now. And I'm thinking, you know, we're talking about people that have taken power over their destiny. It's my parents, really.
Well, throughout your life, there was challenges that you had to overcome.
Oh, yes.
And it's amazing what you've done in the school system, the dedication that you've had. Tell us a little bit about that journey for you, why it was so important for you to follow this path.
Okay, well, being a child in the public schools, the teachers that I had were very instrumental in teaching me to look outside of my environment, what I'm used to. They were also very instrumental in having me express myself. Early on, they could see that I liked to write. And there was this one teacher that kept me during recess because she said I needed to finish my story. You know, I mean, okay, well, keep me, I didn't like that. But, you know, I've come to realize that teaching is truly an important part of a child's life, especially.
Some pictures of you, by the way, when you were young. By the way, I had to make sure I pointed that out.
Okay.
A young Evelyn growing up and finding her path.
And in those days, you know, when my parents came out of the plantation because the plantation life wasn't for them, so they came into the city. We lived in boarding houses where there were several families living in one house and a few single men also. And it was really great. I thought I had the best because my playmates were with me at home and at school, you know. And eventually my parents were able to buy a house, but it was a boarding house as well because that's the only way they could pay for the mortgage.
So with everything that your family went through and the journey that you went through, you paved this wonderful career in education. But right toward the end of your career in education,
Yes.
as far as within the school system, you had quite a twist
Yes.
happen to you toward the end, and that was a big hurdle for you to overcome.
It was a very big hurdle. I was diagnosed with cancer of the bladder. And
That's unusual.
It's very unusual for women. It's 4 to 1 men to
And this
women
was shortly
ratio.
before your retirement.
6 years, close to 6 years, 6 years before my retirement, and it was quite a shock, actually a surprise because I never had any symptoms until just a few months before then. But you know, one thing that I've also learned from my teachers, and I guess I go back to my analytical. Whenever I'm faced with a challenge, I tend to become analytical, or quote unquote studious about the subject. And that's basically my approach. So when the doctor told me something like, we found a, what did she say, posterolateral mass, you know, consistent with such and such sarcoma, I zeroed in on that and I said, can you define it for me exactly? And so she tried, and then the next step was, okay, what are the next steps after this? You know, a very analytical, studious, step-by-step approach. I find that works really well for me, at least at the very beginning of a challenge.
You know, Doctor, when we talk about people having to go through these challenges in their lives, in their families, or physically. I mean, a lot of people with cancer too. It's a very deep psychological impact they can have, not only a physical impact. And I would imagine it really is difficult for a lot of people to try and figure out how to deal with that on not only a physical level, but a mental level.
Definitely. And when it comes to a diagnosis such as this, it's not anything that you can do by yourself. And you have less control over that. So it's interesting that you go the studious way. So, and that's control. That is being able to have the power over something you're powerless against, and being able to try to understand what it is as much as you can, so you're part of the process of whatever you have to do after that. So yeah, that's amazing. And many people go through diagnoses that are medical that, you know, come along with other things that are emotional. Depression or whatever it might be that goes along with whatever the diagnosis is, and it can be very difficult to overcome.
You know, there was a woman that I spoke with the YWCA not that long ago, and she got into drugs later in her life because of some family trauma, but she was very successful in the financial industry for quite some time. And we got to talking about how difficult it is for someone sometimes, also when they've had great success in their life, and then at the end of that, to have something so shattering, at least temporarily, if not for the long term, affect their lives. Yes. Because you've been on such a trajectory for quite some time. How would you share your thoughts about that? About how you dealt with that at this point in your life, with everything that you'd already gone through and accomplished?
Well, that was my first reaction, right? Being very studious about it, being very analytical, but that doesn't last very long. The first time I was diagnosed, it was very conscious to me that I had just crossed under a portal. All my life, there was this world without cancer, and then now I enter the world with cancer and all the others that have experienced it. And just realizing that made me see that I was missing out on a lot of things in the world. Because although my parents had challenges, and part of it were my challenges too, my life was pretty happy. They made sure I was. I didn't have everything that my friends had, but I had enough. And so life was pretty good all along. And then the cancer came. And, you know, I believe you learn all the way to the end of your life, and certainly learned a lot. And so when I started my chemotherapy, and I went into this infusion room where we all sat in very huge, comfortable incliners, and we're hooked up to the tubes. We're all sitting there, and I'm looking at them, and I got to know a few of them fairly well because we happened to go there at the same time for our chemotherapy. And I'm thinking, they're so courageous. They're so outgoing. They seem happy, and I'm thinking, you know, I've got a higher standard to live by.
You know, this really leads into kind of what I want to make sure that I get to with all of you is how you push through this. What was the catalyst for you, and to make you realize, you know, I want more for my life, or I want to fight back from this. Now, I think maybe I want to lead into this question to you, Brandon. This is from Leigh Marie. She says, there are people who have your background who go through it in a negative way. So how did you push through this? What drove you to push through all the challenges that you were dealing with?
Oh, it's actually my sister. Yeah.
Thank you, sister.
For me, it was finding a foundation. Like, being so lost, you had to find something to hold on to, something to believe in. And that for me was family. Like, even though like this event impacted me the most, like, I had to think about the people around me too, like my grandparents, everyone else who's like affected by the situation, and just keeping them in the back of my mind, like thinking about the setbacks they had to go through as well. That it really gave me like a solid intrinsic motivation to do well. Like, I gotta make these people proud because they like took me in. Like, my grandparents, both sides, they took me in to raise me. I didn't ask for that. They just did it out of love. So it's something you gotta give back. Like, just
I think
push
I got a
through.
picture of you, and is that Grandma?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that looks like a graduation, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
That's a lot of lay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are some big smiles too.
Mm-hmm.
Must have felt good.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to make my family proud because they raised me and like they believe in me, and knowing that you have that foundation, that support system. Having a support system is a good thing. Like, yeah.
You know, Dr. Kanaka, this is a question for you then. This is coming from Mike in Honolulu. What would you say is the best course of action when a child feels responsible for a neglectful or maybe a self-destructive parent? I mean, that's something that you know, Brandon had to deal with and think about at times. What are your thoughts on that? What would you share?
Okay, so for best course, I would say that everyone's different. Everybody has a different experience with how they work effectively with their own experience. So when it comes to children, it's very difficult because children are the ones with the less power when it comes to anything. Like, they don't have a choice about many things. They have to go along with what adults tell them to do or how they run things. So I would say for adults, it would be to be aware of what's happening with children, to be aware with what's going on, pick up on signs, be there. And Brandon's talked about his grandparents and how they've surrounded him with love and what they've done for him. So even though a child may not have the words or the vocabulary to say, this is what's going on for me, they can identify people who are safe, people who are comfortable, and they can gravitate towards them even without having to say anything. They can feel comfort. And so I'd say for adults, you know, be that for them.
And no doubt, being in the education system for
definitely.
quite some time, you experienced this.
Oh, I have. You know, the clientele of Kū Elementary for the longest time has had 82% that are disadvantaged, and around 45% are English as a second language learner. So that means they come from homes, most likely from of immigrant parents, and so they have quite a few hurdles to go over. Schools can play a very important role. And you know, when you were going to school, I was just thinking, at that time, the schools had so much opportunity to make a difference in your life. Today, I think there are more opportunities for that, and it all depends on, you know, principals at the school that make that a priority, especially if their clientele is a certain demographic.
So important within the system to talk about it.
Oh yes, you know, and the teachers themselves. I had a great bunch of teachers that just did whatever they could. You know, if they knew that one of their students couldn't have breakfast, they would bring breakfast for them. And if a child looked like a child needed clothes, well, they'll bring clothes, you know, for them. And it wasn't a handout at all. It was simply a way of moving the child along. And then we have counselors and nurse aides and so forth. We don't realize, I'll say one more example that we really don't realize. You know, when children come to school with ukus, and
I remember.
Yeah, and they need to be sent home and get their parents to go buy that lotion and so forth. Well, what we don't realize is many of the parents don't have the money to pay that $15 for that. So sometimes they stay home, they don't know what to do. But we found a way. I have some very resourceful people there. I'm not there anymore, that went on the internet and they said, combining Listerine with shampoo will do it.
So somebody just paying attention and thinking and helping.
Yeah.
Roy, you know, I wanted to continue on with your story because there was a transition point in your life when you realized the impact that you could have on children and kids. Tell me about what happened at that point in your life and when you realized the impact you could have.
Well, you know, I've been teaching my whole life ukulele, but I remember about 10 years ago I woke up and I saw this image of children and I didn't understand it. And then a voice started entering me like, go to schools. And I just kept on blocking it out until one day I said, I got to do this just to satisfy what's happening to me. And one of my students was a third grade teacher, so I went there I thought I was supposed to play my ukulele. And I played one or two songs, but then I stopped and I just talked. And then I left. But those kids wrote me such touching letters that the Honolulu Advertiser did a whole story on those letters. Then I started getting calls from teachers if I would like to come to their school and speak, and that's what opened it up. And basically what I was sharing these years is the story of my struggles, because I have found out that when I share my struggles and my deepest struggles, first it goes to where the kids are struggling, but it brings it out to the surface. And then the tears come and they start crying, but then somehow they find something in that to not be afraid to talk about it, or they realize they're not alone. Because every time I ask the kids in schools, in 4th, 5th, and 6th graders, how many of you are hurting and nobody in the world knows you're hurt, not even your parents? I would estimate that 90% just raise their hands.
Wow.
See, 90% of kids are holding in their hurt because they don't know how to talk about it to their parents.
Wow,
That's
that's powerful. This is a question from Kay, and maybe I'll ask you, Doctor. She wants to know, how would an adult begin to implement maybe a structure in a child's life who's grown up with very little structure, especially when they're trying to figure out that balance between control and care? What advice would you give? What thoughts would you share?
That you don't have to go it alone. There are many programs, there are many things that you can look up online, not to feel the pressure that everything's on you to do it, that you can rely on others or you can get advice from other people. We've heard in these stories that there's community that's being built, being with other cancer survivors and the stories that they come up with, how they deal with what they're going through. So I would say for an adult that's helping a child is that one, great that you're feeling that you really want to help and you really want to be there for that child. And the other thing is to be gentle on yourself and allow yourself to open up with compassion to the child, because what's really important is the connection you make with the child. Structure and everything else is important, but if you can build a connection of trust and love and care with the child, and the child understands that, then you can build foundations from there.
May I add? Schools are a great resource because children go to school. So there needs to be a connection between what's happening in the home and what's happening in the school. And the more that the home and the school communicate and know what each one is doing to help the child, the better it'll be. So counselors can help.
I'm curious, I have to ask you this, Doctor. When people are dealt with obstacles in their life, which is oftentimes what you're obviously dealing with, more often than not, do they turn their lives around? Are they able to? And what do you often see as that nugget that helps them do that? And they do. That was kind of a twofold question, sorry.
Yeah, that's a good one. So again, it's the uniqueness of every person and their story and their experience and their own resiliency and what seems to impact them the most. So everybody's journey is different. We have similar ways that we go upon that journey. And another thing is that for us as therapists or psychologists or marriage and family therapists or social workers, we have a very small window into a person's life because we're not with them the rest of the week, the rest of every time else, only when we're with them. So it really is up to the person to make the choice to change, to do things for themselves, and it could be a long journey for them. So it's not necessarily that it's going to happen like in 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to be better. It's going to be a process that you start down and then continually work on.
Here's a quick question for you, Brandon. What are your positives in life? What would you say now are your positives in life?
Definitely family and friends and just supporters, really. Like, I always look up to my friends and my teachers, especially Mrs. Galamgam. I started freshman year in this AVID program, it's college prep program, and with her, like, she really saw me, like, she saw my untapped potential and helped me, like, see my own potential really and to really do it, like, you know, just do it, like, have that drive. And I can't thank her enough because, like, without her, I don't know if I'd be going to college in 2 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have some great video of some of the big old festivals that you're a part of, and all the kids' lives that you touch in different ways, whether it be through music or through you sharing your thoughts and your experiences. Yeah, there we go. We've got some video there. What a happy, wonderful experience.
Wow.
It is. I mean, you know, ukulele with my wife and our instructors, and to teach all these youngsters, and to see the smiles on their faces when they perform at these festivals, it's tremendous joy. And this year, July 16th, we celebrate our 47th annual Ukulele Festival right there. 47. Thanks to Tony Group's Autoplex sponsorship, we're going to.
So
be
you started
there.
when you were 1, is what you're saying.
I wish I could say
2.
I think my first one was when I 21 years old around.
Wow.
When I had the dream to put on a festival.
How quickly did it hit you, the impact that you were having on other people's lives, whether it was through your words or through music?
Well, I don't think it was something quick. I think it was a process of teaching and loving what I was doing. I could, even if I had just one student, I would teach with so much energy and passion, the same as if I was teaching 8 students. And as I put my heart and soul into teaching, it's just started to evolve and grow and grow and grow. And then I realized, maybe probably within the first 5 or 6 years, especially when my wife became a big part of what I was doing, we were doing it together. And that's when I think it really blossomed into what people see today. And it's my name on there. It says Roy Sakuma Productions, but really the heart and soul is my wife, Kathy. Yeah.
What have you heard when kids who you've talked to or kids who you've taught music to come back to you later in life?
Oh, it's so rewarding. We get this all the time. I mean, it's a lot of tears. Now we're teaching third generations, but we have so many people that come back to the studio to visit us, and they say, hey, I took lessons from you in the 1970s. And I talk to them, and some of them I can remember them. And it just touches my heart because they tell me stories about how I taught them, or what I said, or it's really.
And some of the stories that you shared of your personal struggles, no doubt, impacted some of the kids you worked with.
A lot. I mean, I have probably so many letters and emails from people that write to us, and over 2,000 letters. I have them all. I have them all, and it's very. A lot of those letters, when I read, I start to tear because it's, you can tell they're writing from their heart. It's not coming like,
That support system. Brandon, when you started to share your story and talk to some of your friends, some of the people that you knew, others, about what you went through, what was that experience like for you to start to share?
I guess I felt like I could really be myself, and I didn't have to have like a safeguard around my friends who I knew for years. Like, I felt like I could truly be myself, and I could really open to them, I guess, confide in them.
What was the response that you got from some of the people you talked to?
They were really supportive, yeah. They didn't think anything different of me, really. They just appreciated, I guess, saw me the same, but in a different light.
One thing we talked about earlier before we started the show was just you being here, just you sharing your thoughts, and people who are listening can take that home with them and process it in a way and see it as a way maybe to help themselves. What does that mean to you, to be able to have that impact?
Oh gosh, I didn't think I'd be the person to be inspirational, like, out of all people. I don't know, it just feels fulfilling. Like, I find gratification in, like, being able to say I made a difference in somebody else's life, and saying it made a difference in my community and the people who raised me. Like, it's really fulfilling. Yeah.
And you're doing great. You're going to
the University
soon.
of San Francisco in 2 months. Yeah.
And I think that's for all of you, really, to be able to talk about how you got through all of this and to move forward in your lives. I'm sure you want that to be an example to others too, that they can.
Just want people to know, like, don't let anything hold you back. Don't let anything make you think that you're not possible of doing the things you want to do. Always strive for the highest. And
Speaking of striving for the highest, let's see, what do we have? Valedictorian, what else? Come on.
Class president.
Class president.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, just receiving like a couple of scholarships too. It's really
good for you. Actually, of my understanding, a very big scholarship.
Yeah. Wait, which
600,000, is that right?
Oh, that's in offers. Yes.
In offers, that's impressive.
12,000 in offers.
Wow. So let me ask this question. This is from Melissa. How do you, maybe this is for you, Doctor, but really for any of you, because of the experiences you've all gone through, how do you encourage a child to be open to leaving a bad situation at home, maybe something they feel guilty about? How would you go about somebody who maybe either isn't ready, or you're not sure, or you know they want to and they need help, how would you help them to try and make that first step to open up?
For a child?
For a child, or somebody you're dealing with that you know is in pain, you can see that they need help. How would you start that?
I think Roy has great experience with this, so I'm going to defer to him.
Okay. Well, I've worked with a lot of children with these struggles, suicidal kids. In school, the principals would bring the kids to me, and they're crying and everything. And I would sit down with them, and I would just, and if they've heard me speak at the assembly, that helps, because now they know where I've come from. And I sit down with them, and I just, well, like he says, I want to open up them. So I wait until I find the love in my heart for that child. And when I feel the love, now I ask the child, how can I help you? And usually the child will respond, and I'll just listen. And then I'll say something to help them understand that they're not alone. Like, one of the things I've learned to say is, that must really hurt. Because see, that's important, because if we normally will say, parents will say, don't think like that. But we just stop them. But when you say, that must really hurt, it's like saying, I can feel your pain. That's when they start to open up and talk. And something happened to this happened about 5 years ago, and I still keep in touch with this person who's so successful now in college. What had happened is I told her, you need to talk to him. And she was seeing a doctor, but she couldn't tell that the parents that she was cutting herself. I asked her, are you cutting yourself? She says, yes. I says, oh, I know that's going to lead to suicidal attempt. I says, we need to let your mother know. And she says, I cannot. And then I blurted out, may I call your mother? And she said, yes. Just like that, she said yes. And I've encountered other situations similar. And when I've asked, may I call your mother, they always say yes.
Really?
In other words, they can do it on their own. But if you ask for permission to call on their behalf, they say yes.
And same thing within the school system. This is so important.
It's so
for everyone to
important.
talk about how to keep a child motivated in school.
Well, our school, there's a lot of emphasis on test scores. However, at Kū School, we did not throw out music or art or PE. We kept those. And as a matter of fact, we had an artist to teach art to the students once a week, music to teach music once a week. And that to me is just a tremendous outlet and a tremendous way of self-expression. Not every child will be the best writer or mathematician, but a child will find a place for himself or herself if you give many opportunities to do that. Now, as far as getting children to open up, I leave it up to the adults to be the model. When I had my cancer, I made sure that a letter went home to the parents to tell them what I was going through. And the teachers also were very good at translating that to their students. And then just before I went into surgery, every child wrote me a letter.
Oh, wow.
It was so heartening. It was so, what shall I say? I think could have cured me right then and there. And what I did too was I answered every single one.
Wow.
Because I knew it would mean a lot to them.
Yeah. We have a little bit of time left. Really quickly, Brandon, I wanted to ask you for a young lady or a young guy watching right now, maybe somebody like you, who's silently suffering. What might you want to share with them?
Find somebody to confide in, and just, if you can't right now, just try to distract yourself. Find something you're passionate in. Find a way to fill that hole that you're feeling, and you can always talk to me if you can find me. Yeah, just find somebody, like, I think that's the best way to go. Yeah.
Wise words. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your stories. It's just, and for sharing your help. It's so important for people to just hear people talk about it, I think. And that's invaluable. So thank you, all of you. Mahalo to all of you for joining us tonight. And we'd like to thank our guest, Roy Sakuma, ukulele teacher extraordinaire, Evelyn Akson-Hao, retired teacher and school principal, Brandon Regassa, who's heading off to college, congratulations to you, and Dr. Kainoa Kanekua, therapist and doctor of psychology. Thank you so much for being here today. All right, next week on Insights, Hawaii isn't alone. Cities like Los Angeles and quaint destinations even like Key Largo, Florida, also struggling with the pros and cons of illegal or underground short-term rentals. Now, the movement is changing the tourism industry and very possibly your own neighborhood. Airbnb has become the largest hotel company in the world despite not owning any hotels. Proponents of this movement say it has stabilized Hawaii's housing market, local data indicating 19% of homeowners do it to avoid foreclosure. 60 to 65% partner with Airbnb, so they say they can afford to stay in their own homes. So we're going to hear from different sides of the dispute right here next week on Insights. I'm Laurie Amata for Insights on PBS Hawaii. Until next time, a hui hou.